Picture this, the most dangerous man alive is currently restocking potato chips at AM, arguing with his wife about whether they're charging too much for energy drinks, and wondering if he remembered to order more instant ramen for tomorrow's delivery. His name is Taro Sakamoto, and 5 years ago, hearing that name would have sent shivers down the spine of every criminal organization from Tokyo to Sicily. Today, the biggest threat he poses is running out of your favorite convenience store snacks. The final boss of assassins, the guy other killers whispered about in hushed tones, wondering if the stories could possibly be true. Did he really take out an entire Yakuza family using nothing but a vending machine? Did he actually infiltrate a fortified compound through the sewage system and walk out without a single stain on his suit? The transformation is so absurd it sounds like a joke. But stick with me, because this joke has teeth. Sakamoto wasn't just any hitman, he was the hitman. The answer to both is yes. And those aren't even his most impressive hits. And for the first time in his adult life, he was thinking about exit strategies, or weapon placement, or who might be watching him through the security cameras. For 15 years, Sakamoto was death incarnate. Clients paid astronomical fees just to have his name attached to their problems. Harder than infiltrating North Korean black sites. More nerve-wracking than defusing bombs while hanging upside down from helicopter cables. Maybe it was how he never seemed to be in a hurry, despite clearly being the kind of person who had very important places to be. Maybe it was the haunted look in his eyes that suggested he'd seen too much of the world's darkness and was desperate for a little light. How do you ask someone out when your idea of small talk involves discussing the most efficient way to disable someone with a paperclip? Governments bent over backwards to stay off his bad side. Criminal empires crumbled at the mere suggestion he might be coming for them. The price of hiring any other hitman immediately tripled because suddenly there was a massive gap in the market about figuring out the optimal product placement for maximum customer satisfaction, about whether the coffee machine needed descaling again. Married her 6 months later, had a daughter who became the absolute center of his universe, gained 30 pounds from stress eating ice cream while learning how to be a normal person. Sakamoto had ducked inside to avoid some persistent rivals, planning to wait them out while pretending to browse the magazine section. He could spot a shoplifter from across the store defuse angry customers with the same psychological warfare techniques he'd once used on international terrorists, and somehow always knew exactly what product someone was looking for even when they didn't know themselves. Not for a specific job. Forever, the man who had been the apex predator of human society decided he wanted to sell snacks and raise a family instead. She had no idea that those same hands had once been registered as lethal weapons in 17 different countries. And after 4 years of domestic bliss, the past came knocking. Standard procedure. He'd done it 100 times before. And then, on a random Tuesday in April, everything changed. Patient, kind, utterly unafraid of the drunk businessman screaming about expired coupons. She diffused the situation with a smile and a free coffee, turning an enemy into a friend in under 30 seconds. 3 young assassins, probably fresh out of whatever underground academy was churning out killers these days, walked into the store with cocky grins and obvious weapons. The store became a pilgrimage site for young killers looking to make their reputation by taking down the legend. It had made him desperate, and a desperate Sakamoto protecting his family was infinitely more dangerous than the cold, calculating assassin he'd once been. A testing ground for established professionals who wanted to prove they could succeed where others had failed. Her name was Aoi, and she was working the night shift at a 24-hour convenience store in Shibuya. Kids would stop by after school for candy and homework help. Elderly residents treated it like a community center. When you're fighting for a paycheck, there are limits to what you'll do. And that the high school kids always buy the same snacks on Fridays. By night, he's the shadow that eliminates threats before they can touch his family. When you're fighting for your daughter's safety, there are no limits at all. Regular customers have no idea that their friendly shopkeeper has turned their favorite late-night snack run into the most secure location in the city. Someone they could intimidate, someone who'd forgotten what real violence looked like, and anyone who threatens that balance quickly discovers why some legends should never be tested. But something about the way she handled a difficult customer caught his attention. Sakamoto realized he'd been watching her for 20 minutes. Now he has a reason to be the monster he was always capable of being, and Sakamoto was calmly ringing up a customer who walked in during the altercation and somehow hadn't noticed anything unusual happening. He was thinking about how nice it would be to come home to someone like that. The courtship was the most terrifying thing he'd ever attempted. But Aoi saw something in him. Maybe it was the way he always bought exactly one item and left a tip that was worth more than most people's weekly salary. Whatever it was, she said yes to coffee, then dinner, then a second dinner, then a third. 6 months later, Sakamoto did something that sent shockwaves through the entire criminal underworld. He retired, not temporarily. The announcement broke the internet before the internet was even ready to be broken. Assassination forums crashed. Dark web marketplaces went into chaos. But Sakamoto didn't care about market disruption. He cared about learning how to change diapers. He bought the same convenience store where he'd met Aoi. For 4 blissful years, it worked. The store became a neighborhood fixture. Customers loved the friendly couple who always remembered their names and their usual orders. Sakamoto discovered he was genuinely good at customer service. All those years of reading people, of understanding what they wanted and needed, translated surprisingly well to retail. His daughter, Hannah, grew up thinking her daddy was the coolest person alive because he owned a store where she could have unlimited access to candy and because he gave the best piggyback rides in the world. But the thing about being a legend is that legends never really die. They just wait. It started small. A few unfamiliar faces lingering too long in the store. Cars parked across the street with tinted windows. Phone calls that hung up the moment he answered. Then it escalated. A brick through the window with a note attached. Anonymous messages slipped under the door. Photos of Hannah walking to school. The message was clear. Some people hadn't forgotten who Taro Sakamoto used to be, and they weren't happy about his retirement. The first direct confrontation happened on a Thursday. They expected to find a soft, middle-aged shopkeeper who'd gone weak from too much domestic comfort. What they found instead was a reminder of why Sakamoto had been the most feared man alive. The entire fight lasted 12 seconds. When it was over, all 3 assassins were unconscious. The store was completely undamaged. But that was just the beginning. Word spread quickly through the underground networks. Sakamoto was rusty but not helpless, and every single one of them learned the same lesson: retirement hadn't made Sakamoto weak. The beautiful irony is that love had transformed him into something even more lethal than he'd been before. Now Sakamoto lives in 2 worlds simultaneously. By day, he's the cheerful shopkeeper who remembers that Mrs. Tanaka prefers her coffee with extra sugar. The store has become a fortress disguised as a neighborhood convenience mart. And the best part? Sakamoto is genuinely happy. Happier than he ever was as the world's most feared assassin. Because now he has something worth protecting. The convenience store owner who used to be the world's most feared hitman has found his perfect balance: normal life with extraordinary protection. After all, the most dangerous person in the world isn't someone with nothing to lose. It's someone with everything to protect.